So welcome everyone. This is a recording of Rules for Decision, and I'm recording this in a little group. There's 5 of us here today, and so we'll be going through, spending as much time as I need to go through Rules for Decision in a lot of detail. And I've just invited the 4 others that are in the group with me to, if you feel guided to ask a question or to share something that's been helpful for you when you've been doing Rules for Decision, you're most welcome to share and just feel into what to say and what to ask. So first of all, let's just, I'll just lead a prayer from the Holy Spirit, just asking for my guidance. So Holy Spirit, I release everything of Cate to you, to use. Use this body, use these words, use anything you want to bring through. I just surrender everything to you. I leave no part of any part of my mind that has any identity as a self. I release everything. And I ask you to just speak through me, choose the right words for anyone that needs to hear this. I release it so that anyone that needs to listen to this video will be guided to listen, will get the right information, something that they need to hear in any way they need to hear it. Everything is given over to you to use. Amen. Okay. So I'll just give a little preface to Rules for Decision. I used to call it How to Have a Happy Day. And it's one particular area of the text that has that is very practical. Most of the text is sort of theory and concepts and ideas given to us so that we can slowly open our minds to a new way of thinking. So we replace our wrong-minded thoughts with the right-minded thoughts. And when we only have right-minded thoughts in our mind, our mind will shift into oneness, where God takes the final step. We don't do it. That step is where our mind is just effortlessly moved into the eternal always, the true perception, the real world. So one of the really, there's a whole workbook to be done, but one of the areas of the text, which is chapter 30, the new beginning, Jesus really gives us very detailed, practical application for the end of reading the text. So there's 31 chapters and it's at chapter 30. So he understands that we've read the 29 chapters before we get to this one. So it's sort of at the end. So we've been introduced to lots of different ideas about the world. He tells us where we are, where we really are. He tells us what the world is. He gives us a new interpretation of everything. And then he brings in rules for decisions and tells us when we practice this, we will have happy days, we'll have the happy dream. So this is, as I said, a practical way, but he talks about these as habits, that we have to form new habits and it's going to take some time. And he understands that as we develop new habits, that we're not always going to do it properly. So he gives us a quick restorative and a longer restorative So he gets us back on track. So literally, that's our choose again. The restorative is, okay, you've chosen with the ego, let's get back on track. So he asks us to practice this rules of decision so we can shift our mind back to make no decisions for ourselves. And one of the things I just wanted to share was on my journey, I just came to a very simple technique that I used all the time. And for many years, I just did simple things, 3 simple steps. I noticed when I was upset and I gave it to the Holy Spirit. So if something upset me, I just gave it to the Holy Spirit. I imagined myself putting it onto a shelf and I said, here, you have this, I don't want it anymore. So I was very willing to, I didn't want that upset. I didn't want to entertain it and go down that rabbit hole with those thoughts, those ego thoughts. And after I did that, the second step was, above all else, I want to see this differently. So I had my way of seeing it, or the ego's way of seeing it. I gave it over, I released it. I don't want that anymore. I don't want it. So there was a real dedication to, I'm not interested in that thought. I'm not interested in that idea of guilt. I'm not interested in that idea about anything that was upsetting me. Second step, help me see this differently. A really, really deep desire to have another way of seeing it. I want to see it differently. And then I would wait. Now, when I started this process, it might take a week to get another way of seeing it, but eventually over time, it would come in quicker and quicker. The ideas, the things that were given to me to do, to bless or to see someone or to say, I love you in my mind. I was given different techniques, or I was just guided to the course to read something and it would shift and it would bring in a new way of seeing the situation or the person. And so after many years of practicing that particular technique, it became instant. The minute I said, I don't want this anymore, you have this, help me see this differently, I would get an instant correction. So it was instant forgiveness. And so because I was getting that so quickly, I was having longer and longer periods of peace in my mind. And then when something came in, I would do it again. Now, in the restorative, the longer restorative, this is what he gives us pretty much. So these are the rules for decisions. And then I realised years later when I read rules of decision that I was doing it. So this is the rules. So let's start. Chapter 30, rules for decision. The new beginning. So this is like, the new beginning is we're going to start again. We're going to choose again. We're going to start practicing this. We're going to say, okay, I'm going to start these new habits. So we set ourselves that we're going to keep doing this every time we wake. It's not just to be done one day. It's not like a lesson for the day. This is something that we should probably do for a month. And in fact, I did it for 2 years. And I still do it if something comes up. If an ego thought comes into my mind, it's my go-to. It's all I do. I don't want this, Holy Spirit, you have this. Help me see this differently. So it's the basis of my forgiveness practice. So it's a new beginning, and so you don't have to start this today when you listen to this video, or the people here that are on the video. You don't have to do this from today, but you might like to feel into a particular date where you might think, okay, I'll do this every day for a month. and then bring it into your life as an ongoing practice. So the new beginning now becomes the focus of the curriculum. The goal is clear, and the goal is the peace of God. The goal of the course is to have peace, like a peace that passeth understanding. The goal is clear, but now you need specific methods for attaining it. So he's going to give us very specific methods of getting this peace. So if we follow what he's asking us, he guarantees us peace of mind. The speed by which it can be reached is individual, depending on only this, your willingness to practice every step. Right, so each individual is going to, the speed at which you reach the peace of God. Jesus says it just depends on one thing only, your willingness to practice these steps, every step. Right? Every single step that he gives us here, it's up to us. How willing am I to practice this when I go out of peace? How willing am I to, when I wake up, to say I'm going to do rules for decisions today and put it into practice? And together, so we join with the Holy Spirit. We're not doing this alone. And together, will these steps lead you from dreams of judgment to forgiving dreams and out of pain and fear? They are not new to you, but they are more ideas than rules of thought to you as yet. So now we need to practice them a while until they are rules by which you live. So eventually this becomes an automatic way. We're so used to this habit that it's just our natural way of doing it. We don't even have to think about it. As soon as we get upset, it just comes through naturally. We seek to make them habits now, so you will have them ready and for any need. Decisions are continuous. You do not always know when you are making them, but with a little practice in the ones you recognise, a set begins to form which sees you through the rest. So even though there might be a lot of decisions or maybe judgments in your mind about everything and everyone, we don't need to worry about every little thing. We only need to worry about when we do get upset, where we've judged the situation. It is not wise to let yourself become preoccupied with every step you take. The proper set, adopted consciously each time you wake, will put you well ahead. So every morning when we wake up, we have to adopt this consciously. So we have to consciously sit down and go through those steps. And if you find resistance strong and dedication weak, you are not ready. Do not fight yourself. Now I'm reading from the purple edition, the Circle of Atonement edition, and I just would like to read the note at the bottom of this because it's quite helpful. Do not fight yourself does not mean you should give up. The fact that you are experiencing strong resistance simply means you are not ready to have the day you want. You therefore need to spend more time getting ready for your day. This additional time is described in the very next sentence, but think about the kind of day you want and tell yourself there is a way in which this very day can happen just like that. Then try again to have the day you want. Thus, rather than fight against your resistance, You just need to remind yourself of the benefits of adopting the proper mental set. So that's important part of that. So do not fight yourself. And just if you do find your resistance to practicing this, it's just, he just says, you know, don't fight yourself. He says, but just think about the day you want and tell yourself there is a way in which this very day can happen just like that. Now that's pretty amazing when you think about what Jesus is saying here. You know, it's very easy to skip past this particular sentence, but it's quite amazing that he says that when we think about the day we want, he says, I want you to tell yourself there is a way in which that very day can happen just exactly as you've thought about it. So we think that this day is set. Now, sometimes people can think that the other part of the course where it says the script is written, they can think that this conflicts with this area. So the script is written. There's millions of scripts. So I just want to give you a little bit of an idea about why your mind might not think this could work. Is that with the script, there's a couple of factors that you need to understand about the script is written, so you can open up to this part of the this area where you can have the day you visualize. Is that when you get an ego thought, you respond to that ego thought. You can't help but respond to it when you're in the ego. So the ego tells you how to respond. So you're really like a robot. You don't, because we don't actually have our own mind. We have the ego mind. That's what we have. We think we have our own mind. We don't. We only have the ego or the Holy Spirit. So there's not a you, your mind, the ego's mind, the Holy Spirit. There's only two. So your script is that when you react from the ego, your script is your reaction from the ego. That's all been scripted in terms of you can't help but react to the ego. The way the ego comes in and says, I was unfairly treated, or you were unfairly treated, but it speaks as if it's the self. So that thought comes in, I'm unfairly treated, then I need to react a certain way. So it says, it tries to protect you. It's constantly telling you you are a body, a self, a little self. So its thought system believes that. So it's bringing everything in to believe that idea that there's a separate self. So the thought comes in, I've been unfairly treated. And then the next thought comes in, it says, right, you need to block that person, or you need to not speak to that other person. All these thoughts are based on separation, but the separation thoughts have never been questioned. So this is how the ego runs us. So the script is that when I choose the ego, I can't help but choose it because I believe it is me. So the script is that when the ego thought comes in, I've been unfairly treated, then the ego thought says, you should not speak to that person again because they did this and that. Then I choose to block them or not speak to them. That's how the script happens. I'm in the script. So my character stops speaking to the other character. And so that's the script of the ego. I can't help but choose that because I'm under the effect of the ego thought system. So when I step outside of that and I get the thought, I'm unfairly treated, I start to feel this upset. So in that moment, I notice, right, I'm upset. I'm believing the ego's thought of being unfairly treated. So therefore, I must give it to the Holy Spirit because I'm stuck in it. I can't get myself out of it because I'm under the effect of the ego. So in that moment, I give it to the Holy Spirit and I say, I'm upset. You take it, help me see this differently. So in that, I change the script, and that script's already been done as well. There's millions of scripts. So the script, when I choose the Holy Spirit, I choose to have another script. And in Disappearance of the Universe, the masters say that when I choose the Holy Spirit and I've gone past that forgiveness lesson, I've shifted it, I've got another way of seeing it, I may not have those lessons come up anymore. So things will change in my script. So there's not one script, there's hundreds of scripts, however you choose. And that's hard for us. It's a little bit like choose your own adventure books where, we get lots of different endings. But they've all been done. Every single script, even the script where you choose the Holy Spirit, has been done. So it's, this sort of links in with time as well. But I won't talk about time. I'll just keep it solely focused here on the rules for decision. So now I've explained how the script concept works. So if you have any ideas about, well, I can't think about the day I want because I'm told that I'm already in a script, and so the script's going to happen. So that's not understanding how the script is written works, because everything is done. It's already done, but the script of you sitting there choosing the day you want to have is a script. It is part. It is already done as well, but you're going through it. But rather than going through the nightmare, you're going through the happy dream. So that's the only real choice we have here, is between a nightmare and a happy dream. And why not have a happy dream? Why not be in a happy dream? Why not be happy? So let's think about the kind of day you want and tell yourself there is a way in which this very day can happen, just like that. So I don't want to move on from this sentence for a little while, because I really want everyone to consider this sentence very deeply, because there can be a lot of resistance to the idea that if I think about the day I want, that I can have that day, because there can be a lot of unworthiness and a lot of mistrust that I can have a happy day, that I can be completely happy and never sad or never depressed or never sick during the day. So we have to think that this is the Christ mind, this is Jesus telling us. We have to go beyond our little ideas that there's somehow we have a belief that this world is all about struggle. It's all about things not going right, practicing forgiveness, which we will eventually, you know, we'll get to the end where we'll see that we do have to, once we've chosen for ourselves, that we will have to do forgiveness. But he's introducing us to an idea where we can have a completely happy day with no upsets in our minds. So I just want to really focus on that for a minute. So think about the kind of day you want and tell yourself there is a way in which this very day can happen just like that. Okay. Then try again to have the day you want. So he's telling us we can have the day we want. We can have this day. If we do what he tells us to do, we can have this day. So he says the outlook starts with this. Today, I will make no decisions by myself. So that's a big surrender. Today, I will make no decisions by myself. So straight away my mind goes into Holy Spirit, you decide for me. You choose. I surrender. Oh, Penelope's here.
I'm not the only one.
I'm recording the session, so
Okay.
grab yourself a cuppa and
yes.
welcome.
Yep.
I'm recording it, so if you don't want to be on the actual screen,
I'm happy.
Sit anywhere you
Yeah.
like. So welcome. So I'm just going through rules for decision. Okay, so today I will make no decisions by myself. This means that you are choosing not to be the judge of what to do. So there's two areas here that he talks to us about where we don't make any decisions. So the first one is we are not the judge of what we do, which when we talk about what we do, that will be where we go, in other words, the action of the body during the day. So in the morning, if you have a job to go to, so you would feel in Holy Spirit, no, I make no decisions by myself. So we sit there and we wait, and then we can say something like, you know, you guide me what to do today. But it also means you will not judge the situations where you will be called upon to make response. So there's two things, what to do. So I actually don't do traditional work anymore. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm just going to give some practical applications of this. I wake up and I say, Holy Spirit, you know, today I make no decisions by myself. You be in charge. You know where I need to go. I completely give my life to you to use today. So there might be practical things. So yesterday, my sister was staying with me. I got guided to book my car in for a service. I got guided to make a dental appointment. I got guided to sit with my sister. This all came in as I sat in bed in the morning having a cup of coffee. I just said, you know, what would you have me do? And he said, just spend time today with your sister, let her speak, just listen. And also, of course, I'm responding to my sister. So situations where people talk to you or someone asks something of you, situations are anything that you are making a response to. So I didn't need to, in that moment, when I woke up in the morning and I put the Holy Spirit in charge, and I gave up, just said I make no decisions by myself. I put you in charge. I activate something where the Holy Spirit steps forward in my mind. So you might have seen at the beginning of this video, I did that same thing. So I visualised this morning, I visualised people coming onto the group. I visualised the recording going very well of this session. I visualised an ease. I visualised that who was meant to be here would be here. I just felt everything being peaceful. I said, Holy Spirit, you speak through me. I did that a little bit this morning. I also did it just as we started the video, so people can hear, the group can hear the surrendering prayer. So the two important parts here of this little section is that we don't choose what we're going to do. So we release it, so we don't have this set idea that I need to clean my windows today, or, you know, Tuesdays I go here and do this, or Wednesdays I always do my food shopping. We give up everything and we say, you tell me what to do, and you'll feel into it. You'll feel this guidance about what to do, and there will be practical aspects to this, because you might need, for me to book those things in yesterday, I knew that I needed to do those things, book the car in for a service, and I needed to book to go back to the dentist and have a couple of fillings. And I just said to the Holy Spirit, you decide when I need to call. And I hadn't got, when I woke up each day, and I do rules for decision every day, naturally, because when you surrender to God, you're naturally doing rules for decision. It's a natural thing, because our life is surrendered, because there's only God's will. We come to see that all through the course, that there's only God's will. We don't actually have our own will. And if we think we have our own will, we're actually having the ego's will. So when we align, this rules for decision is bringing our minds into alignment with God's will. It's bringing us to release this idea that we have to plan out anything. This rules for decision brings in the no planning, the no judging. It sort of combines the whole course's teachings into it. You couldn't feel unfairly treated, because you're going to be choosing. The Holy Spirit's going to be choosing your responses, and He's going to choose what you do. So to feel unfairly treated would be you choosing the ego. So He's trying to get us to choose the Holy Spirit in responding, and first of all to feel into what would you like me to do today. So I'm going to be going through rules for decisions very slowly, as you can see, and really bring it to life in how to put it into application in your own life. So once again, I'll read this. This means that you are, so today I will make no decisions by myself. In other words, I'm going to choose the Holy Spirit. I have to actively quiet my mind and put the Holy Spirit in charge of my day. Holy Spirit, be you in charge. I step back and let you lead the way. I take second place, you be the first. Any of those things that really get you into a surrendering to the right minded thought system, that's going to help me choose what I need to do today and respond to any situation. So when I say today I make no decisions by myself. It means that I don't judge what to do, and it also means I don't judge the situations that I'm called upon to make a response. For if you judge them, so if there's a situation and I judge them, you have set the rules for how you should react to them. So the minute I judge the situation, immediately I have to choose, I'm choosing my response based on that judgment. And then another answer cannot but produce confusion and uncertainty and fear. So we're really trying to get to a state where through this habit we're putting the Holy Spirit in charge, and we're activating that part of our mind to be in charge of everything. We're hoping that we won't judge for ourselves, which is choosing the ego. And it's interesting that once we do judge a situation, so if we meet someone and we judge them, well, the ego judges, the Holy Spirit doesn't judge. So once we judge something, once we judge a person or a situation from the ego's perspective, we're going to react, because the ego is going to immediately judge, and it's judgment comparisons. It's going to bring in unfairly treated, this is bad, this is wrong, they shouldn't have done that, they shouldn't have said that, they should be acting differently, they should speak differently. All the judgment is about they should, or this shouldn't be happening, this should be different. That's all the judgment. And this is what he's pointing to. If you judge them, and he's going to tell us later that we actually can't judge. We're just either got the ego or the Holy Spirit. And if we're judging, we can know 100% we're in the ego. So he says, this is your major problem now. So we don't have to feel bad that this is our major problem. We just have to know this is the problem, and we've got an answer. Yay, we've got an answer. How good is that? Because before, we're just in the ego and we're just getting caught up and we're upset and having diarrhea. And now we've got a different way. We've got a way out. So this is like, yay, this is a way out. Although, and how quickly I get to peace is how willing I am to practice this. So how willing am I every morning to sit down and say, okay, I'm practicing RFD. I'm practicing Jesus's rules. And that's the speed. So the speed I get to peace is how willing I am to do it. That's it. So this is your major problem now. You still make up your mind and then decide to ask what you should do. And what you hear may not resolve the problem as you first saw it. So, for example, if I say Penelope came in this morning, beautiful Penelope, gorgeous Penelope. Now, say I was sitting here in my ego and I said Penelope made too much noise. I didn't think that, but just say, for example, I thought that. I've judged it. I've judged that there was a noise and it was too big, right? Because the ego always says something's too big or not enough. It's always got these things. So if I've judged it, then if I say, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently, I may not want to let Penelope, because I might have judged Penelope as being too noisy all the time. So I might want her to change. I might be sitting there saying, Penelope needs to change, rather. So I'm stuck in my view. And this is what he says, what you hear may not resolve the problem as you first saw it, right? So I've judged it, I've seen it and judged it, and I want my answer. I want my answer that I need to go up to you and ask you to change, right? This leads to fear because it contradicts what you perceive. So I'm perceiving something, I've given it all the meaning it has for me, and so you feel attacked and therefore angry. So I get upset. I don't want the Holy Spirit to give me another answer because I want to be right. You see how it works, and that's just a really simple thing, right?
Yeah.
There are rules by which this will not happen, but it does occur at first to everyone who listens well. So this is just a very simple thing, how we judge, and we judge all day. So he's asking us not to do it, don't be tedious and do it on every little thing. Just do it on the big things. Okay. So, and this takes practice, and it can take years of practice before you really get this clearly. It all depends on where you are in your path and how stuck you are in your perceptions and how long you've been doing the course and how willing you are to practice this. So if for example, my little analogy of an ego judgment, so if I want a happy day, straight away, if I've judged someone walking through my door is too noisy, I'm out of peace. I'm straight away in the ego judgment. And so then the ego would say, no, you need to tell her, you need to get her to change, you need to, it's got this unfairly treated as well. It always comes with an unfairly treated. This shouldn't happen, blah, 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 blah. So the ego's running its little thought system. So so if I was in my ego, I had that perception, which I didn't, by the way. It was lovely to see Penelope. I didn't have a thought when she walked in, but say I did. And I then, when I've got already that judgment in my mind, and then I say, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently, I may not really want the Holy Spirit's answer, because I'm like, oh, the Holy Spirit might, if the Holy Spirit says that I'm wrong and she's right, then that means that she's going to disturb the meeting every time she walks in. Do you see what I mean? So the ego's answer says, don't go to the Holy Spirit, because it's going to get worse and there's going to be a bigger sacrifice and there's going to be this chaos if I choose the Holy Spirit. So that's how the ego works. It tells you something and then it says, don't choose the Holy Spirit's answer, because it will bring chaos. And you need to put everything in order, and you need to tell everyone what to do and how to do it. Right? So when we choose, this is why we have to be willing to practice this. And it says, this leads to fear because it contradicts what you perceive, and so you feel attacked and therefore angry. There are rules by which this will not happen, but it does occur at first to everyone who listens well. So throughout the day, at any time you think of it and have a quiet moment for reflection, tell yourself again the kind of day you want. Now there's two little dots. What are they called? After
Colon.
Colon.
Dots.
Thank you. So tell yourself again the kind of day you want, colon, which means these are the things. Hi, Mike. Welcome. Just going through rules for decision here. So these are the things that we want to have, on our day. The feelings you would have, the things you want to happen to you, and the things you would experience. And say, if I make no decisions by myself, this is the day that will be given me. So I've talked a little bit about how we're not going to judge the situation once we get into the habit of putting the Holy Spirit in charge, saying to ourselves, today I make no decisions by myself. But I want to talk a little bit about this visualization. When he says, tell yourself again the kind of day you want, and at the beginning he says, think about the kind of day you want. Tell yourself that you can have this day. Tell yourself again the kind of day you want. So he's really asking us to think about this. Now, why would he get us to do something, think about the day we want in the morning when we wake up? This is going into future, isn't it? Right? So a lot of people have a little bit of concern about, surely he's not asking me to think about the future. Aren't I just meant to be in the present moment? Right? But no, he's asking us to, so I'm going to tell you why, is because when you think right then and there of the day you want to have, when you sit in bed in the morning or sit quietly by yourself in the morning and you think about the day you want to have, you think about the feelings you want to have. So you go, I want to be happy. I want to be peaceful. I want to feel this love and this joy. You, right in that moment, you experience it as you feel it. In that moment, sitting in bed, having a cuppa, you're feeling that. You're feeling that love in that moment, right?
Yeah.
So, so you bring the feeling into you right then and there. The things you want to happen to you. The way I do this is I just see that I just say, oh, you know, I want to be around people that are going to smile at me, going to bless me. So I sort of, I think about the love. I think, you know, when I go on, if I'm going to go to the cafe and buy a coffee, I think about that someone's going to smile at me, I'm going to smile at them, I'm going to join them in the smile, I'm going to join them in the laugh. So it's really this beautiful visualization that there's things you want to happen to you. So I just see everyone blessing me in terms of not coming up and saying, I bless you, but just the love blessing me. And just kindness and joy and ease and grace. So these are words, so you can just see. So if, say, I'm going to the dentist, I would visualise going to the dentist and everything being effortless, seeing the dentist just effortlessly putting a filling in a tooth, go to the car service, you know, dropping my car off, joining with the mechanic, saying, how are you? What a lovely day. Just, you know, have a beautiful day. I hope, you know, I hope everything goes well. Give me a call if anything needs doing with the car. So it's really seeing this joining, seeing the car getting fixed effortlessly. So everything feels beautiful and joyful and easy. So we want to, this is the day, we want to imagine having these days of an effortless time. And the things you would experience. So the third thing is the things I want to experience. So I want to experience this joy. So as I'm imagining this, I'm getting all these experiences. I'm living in this experience. And then I just say, today I make no decisions by myself. I'm going to have this day. If I don't make no decisions by myself. So now, just for example, this is what's coming into my mind right now. Holy Spirit's putting this in mind. Say I get to the mechanics. Say I drive my car down there and I'm meant to get there at 8 o'clock in the morning to drop my car off. And he's not there. Now, for all I know, my mechanic's got about 6 children. But say I didn't know that. Say it's the first time I've been there. And say he's late. Say he gets there 15 minutes late. That's now, how am I responding to that situation? So I'm not make no decisions by myself. I would stand there and I would look around. I would feel joyful. I would be happy. I let no thoughts of being unfairly treated. I have no thoughts of this is wrong. He shouldn't keep me waiting. I'm important. Where is he? I need to ring up and complain. They're all the ego's responses to that situation. So if that was to happen, I would then do the restorative, right? But once again, this leads to fear because it contradicts what you perceive, and so you feel attacked. Now the attack is unfairly treated, and the ego finds unfairly treatment in everything, and therefore angry. I get angry. Oh, he didn't turn up when he said. I feel attacked. I feel unfairly treated. And now when he arrives, I'm going to respond to this situation from the ego. And I'm going to say, hey, you know, I've been waiting for you. Where are you? But if I'm in my right mind, I might sit there. I've got a quiet time. I'm going to sit and imagine the day. I'm going to see the mechanic turning up with a big smile on his face. I'm going to have a smile on my face, and I'm not going to mention anything because I'm just going to say, hey, how are you? Lovely to see you. Here's my car. I hope you do a beautiful job on my car. You know, you just give it over, and you trust. You trust that whatever's going to happen will occur as it needs to. So you put the Holy Spirit. So I make no decisions. And he might say, he might ask me something about the car. So I respond from the Holy Spirit. So if he's been late, seemingly late, I mean, late is just a meaning I put on something anyway. The ego would put that on. So he turns up in the right time I can't be in the right place at the right time. So my response is from love, that there's nothing's happened, that I'm not unfairly treated, and so the Holy Spirit responds to every situation. So when I'm sitting there waiting for the mechanic to turn up, I'm imagining again, I have a quiet time to imagine the day I want to have. So that's what I do. So that's the practical application of these rules for decision. So throughout the day, anytime you think of it, have a quiet moment for reflection. Tell yourself again the kind of day you want. So I want to have these feelings of joy, of happiness, of love, of peace. Now, and in that moment when I'm imagining it, I'm experiencing it, and I'm going to keep experiencing it. So that's why he gets us to do it. It's going to bring in the moment, me having that, and I'm going to take that. So in that moment, when I'm experiencing that and imagining all those blessings and smiles, and literally it works on another level of the mind, is actually this world is a projection from our mind. So, and we're very powerful. So we're actually going to bring that very day in. That very day is going to be what we live in. So if I make no decisions by myself, this is the day that will be given me. So if it is possible to do this every day and have a happy day every single day, this is the way he's giving us. These are the rules for decisions, the rules for a happy day. So then he goes on to say these two procedures. So these two procedures. Now, what are the procedures? One, the first procedure is to visualize the day I want. And the second procedure is to say, today I will make no decisions by myself. And if I make no decisions by myself, this is the day that will be given me. So these two things, I must do the visualization. I must tell myself the day I want to have. I must tell myself the feelings that I want, the things I want to happen to me, and the things I want to experience. I must do that. I can't gloss over those two things. So those two are the important aspects of rules for decisions. And then he says, if you practice these two procedures, these two procedures practiced well will serve to let you be directed without fear, for opposition will not first arise and then become a problem in itself. So generally, before I came to rules for decision, I was just really doing the restorative, you could say. So I was getting upset and then using the restorative. But I probably hadn't really focused on rules for decision. But once I got to this, I started to visualise the day I wanted. I started to do what he said. And then today I make no decisions by myself. So he's telling us that if we do the first set, the first two procedures, we don't have to, or we won't go into fear, we won't go into judgment. Then he's going to bring in this other way that when we do go into judgment, he's going to tell us how to get back to sanity. But at the beginning, so it's really good to understand that what he's giving us here is a way where we don't have to get upset, where we don't have to have the ego speak first. And so he's telling us there is a way to have a happy day without having the ego, because I think sometimes we think that, well, we're just going to have the ego all throughout the day, and here I am, I'm just going to watch for the ego to come up, which was what I did. And it was helpful. I mean, when I got triggered by things, I just used, now what I see is the restorative, but I've just understanding as I'm going through this, that the visualizations and the telling your day, the telling yourself the day you want to have and doing this means that you don't have to do that as much. So as you get more into the habit of doing the visualization and doing, telling yourself, today I make no decisions by myself, the more that becomes a habit, the less you have to do of having the ego judge and having to go and then having to do forgiveness. So let's move on. This is number 7. But there will still be times when you have judged already. Now the answer will provoke attack unless you quickly straighten out your mind to want an answer that will work. Be certain this has happened if you feel yourself to be unwilling to sit back and ask to have the answer given you. This means you have decided by yourself and cannot see the question. Now you need a quick restorative before you ask. So sometimes people don't understand this thing about the question. So what happens is when we judge it, when we judge a situation, we're asking, the question is, how can I stop this from happening? Hi, Paul. How are you? Nice to see you. Paul, I just want to let you know I'm doing a recording for YouTube. So you might like to, if you're not happy about being recorded, you're welcome to turn your video off and just listen in. On the left-hand bottom part of the screen, it says stop video if you don't want to be recorded. But this recording is going up on my YouTube channel because I'm just going through rules for decision in detail. So anyway, if you leave your video on, it's up to you, but I just want to make sure that everyone understands that. So, well, welcome. It's lovely to see you. So I'm just in the going through rules for decision. So, yeah, just sit back and listen in, Paul. And if you've got any questions later on, I'll ask for questions at a later stage. Okay.
Do I have to go to a certain page or just listen?
You could just listen in. I'm just reading through. It's chapter 30 in Course in Miracles. The new book. You're welcome to. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. I've got the new version.
Oh, okay.
but I'm pretty sure that there's not much difference between the versions if you'd like to read along.
Yeah.
So, so I'm up to number 7 in this version. So Jesus is telling us here that there will still be times when you have judged already. Now the answer will provoke attack unless you quickly straighten out your mind to want an answer that will work. So quickly straighten out your mind is to say, right, I've been upset, I'm listening to the ego, I'm upset, I want to straighten out my mind quickly so I can get back to peace. Be certain that this has happened if you feel yourself being unwilling to sit by and ask to have the answer given you. This means you have decided by yourself and cannot see the question. So when you cannot see the question, I'm just going to go back to my little analogy of, say, are you able to open the door for Lils?
Yeah.
Thanks. So say I have judged someone coming into the meeting, walking in, I've judged it that they've disturbed or made a noise or something. The question would be, how can I stop that from happening, right? Rather than going within and saying, help me see this differently, right? So, and the answer to that, if you do have something like that, if you are in Course in Miracles meetings and you do feel like someone is doing something that disturbs, or if you're anywhere, anytime, anywhere, and you have an idea that somebody should speak more, speak less, speak louder, speak softer, shouldn't come in, should have come in earlier, should have come in later, should not come at all. Anytime you have any judgments on anything, the answer is that everything is happening perfectly as it happens, and peace of mind is not disturbed by anything. Peace of mind doesn't see anything going wrong. So the Holy Spirit would never say something is going wrong, something should change, something should be different. It doesn't, it's the Holy Spirit sees everything as beautiful. It's witnesses, and so for example, if someone was in their wrong mind, if someone was in their ego mind, the ego doesn't judge it, it sees it as a call for help, call for love, call for help. So that's I guess it's its only judgment, I guess, because it says, oh, here's a call for help, or here's a call for love. But if somebody's just moving around and doing something like walking in and saying, hi, it doesn't have a judgment. It just says, yay, Penelope's here, look at her beautiful face. Lovely.
Mate, you just said that the ego, you meant the Holy Spirit then. You actually said the ego.
Oh, did I? Okay, yeah. Thanks, Sammy. Okay, so whatever I said then, it's good. You'll know what I said and how it was meant to be said. All right, so the Holy Spirit doesn't judge. The ego judges. The Holy Spirit reminds us of the truth. So when we go through rules for decision, and when we're doing it in the morning, we have to say that the question, it says here, this means you have decided by yourself and cannot see the question. Now I'm just going to read the note here on this, which is some of these notes from Circle of Atonement are quite helpful. The real question you ask the Holy Spirit should be an open-ended one that does not assume a particular judgment of the situation before you. According to the above sentence, the reason you cannot see the real question is because your question assumes your judgment of the situation. as a result, rather than what should I do here, in other words, how should I respond, your question may amount to some version of how can I get my way here? As a paragraph says later, the sign that this has happened is if you feel yourself to be unwilling to sit by and ask. So how can I get my way? How can I make things happen as I think it should happen? So that's the question. Really, we've got, when we think something, we've judged a situation. So we've judged it, and then we've said we need to get this to change. We need to make sure that this situation or this person doesn't happen again. How can I do it? Whereas the real question is what should I do here? How should I respond? Because the original part of rules for decision is actually, where is it? About responding to the situations. So it just says that the habit's going to be. So always it's just going to ask us, so the Holy Spirit's going to respond with love, kindness, caring, always a situation or anything, the Holy Spirit responds with wisdom, maybe some kind words, maybe with a hug, maybe with love, a smile. The Holy Spirit is love. Its aspect is it extends love, and it's going to use us to extend. So when we're in a Holy Spirit mind, we're going to be responding from the Holy Spirit. And when we feel into it, when we're in the Holy Spirit mind, we have this experience of joy. So we're going through the section of the rules for decision when we have judged, right? So this means you have decided by yourself and cannot see the question. So you can't see the question you have in your mind, which is how can I get my way? That's what you've got. How can I make this situation change? I've got my way that I think it should be, and I want to get my way. And that's the question. So we can't see that we've got that question. That's hidden in our minds, right? We're unaware that that's the question that's going around. Now you need a quick restorative before you ask. So this is giving us the quick restorative here. Remember once again the day you want. So as soon as we get upset, once again we go, remember once again the day you want. So we sink down, we sit quietly, we think, I want happiness, I want peace, I want joy, I want to smile and love everyone. I want everyone to love, I want them to love me and bless me. And recognise that something has occurred which is not part of it. So the minute something happens that is not part of that, I have to recognise it. So this is the restorative. The restorative, I tell myself once again the day I want, and I recognise that something's happened that's not part of that happy day. Then realise that you have asked a question by yourself. So I have to realise I must have judged it and come with my own question. How can I get this to change? And you have set up the answer in your terms. Okay, so I've done 3 things. I've judged it. I've put the question, how can I make this change? How can I change this so I'm not unfairly treated? And then I've set up the answer, which is, I've got to do something. How can I find this, change this, get this? So there's all these 3 things happen very quickly. So I've got to realise I've done that. And then I have to say, I have no question. I forgot what to decide. I have no question. Right, so I let go of that question. How can I get my way? How can I get this person to change? How can I stop this situation from occurring? So I have no question. So I let go of that question. How can I get my way? So I say you might even feel into, I have no judgment, I have no question, I forgot what to decide, so I make no decision on this. So you can use your own words if you don't feel into these words, but this is what he's asking us to say. So I have no question. So, for example, in the situation where I've had a judgment on someone coming into the room, I say the judgment is they're too noisy, or they're too quiet, or they shouldn't be here, or whatever it is. And then immediately, the question is, how can I get that to change? So I have to notice these things in my mind. Okay, I've got a question. So I forgot what to decide. I forgot what to decide. I have no question. I forgot what to decide. So I would say I forget what to decide. I forget what to judge. I want no question. I have no question. This cancels out the terms which you have set and lets the answer show you what the question must have really been. So this cancels out the terms which I've set. It cancels out the judgment, the initial judgment, and lets the answer show you what the question must have really been. So it's telling me the question must be that I want my way, that I want my answer. I want to make up, I want to get my way. I've decided for myself. I've decided. So if the rules for decision is today I make no decisions by myself, and the restorative is I forgot what to decide, which means I've decided with the ego, and I forget my decision. Does that make sense? Is that sort of understandable? Because sometimes when you first go through this, it can be, I have no question, I forgot what to decide. It can be like, well, what was my question and what was my decision? So in that, I then I get the understanding that I've decided by myself.
I've just written down, I do not know what I want, and yet I have made the decision that I do.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I do not know what I want, and yet I have made the decision that I do. Yeah, because if I want a happy day and I judge something, I'm not going to have a happy day, am I? I'm going to be in the judgment, and then I'm going to be in a thought system that tries to get something to change, and that's not happy. And I'm trying to figure out how to get my way. That's not very happy, is it? So going down to the next section, number 9, try to observe this rule without delay despite your opposition. So he's telling us we're going to have opposition. So when we've judged it, and we all know the situations, whether you've got noisy neighbours or someone in your family that's doing something and you've judged the situation, even though you might have opposition to how can I get my way, if you want the peace and you want happiness and you want peace, you need to keep practicing this. You need to visualise the day you want, remember once again the day you want, and tell yourself something's occurred that's not part of this happy day, right? So when you're visualising a happy day, something's occurred straight away. I'm not feeling that happiness. So therefore, I need to do this straight away. Okay, what are you telling me, Jesus? What do I need to do? Okay, I have to say, I have no question. I decided by myself, so I wanted to forget what to decide. Okay, I give it up. So it cancels out the terms. Try to observe this rule without delay, despite your opposition, for you have already gotten angry, and your fear of being answered in a different way from what your version of the question asks will gain momentum. So you start to see, unless you quickly do it, you start to think, the ego starts to go down the rabbit hole of trying to, oh, what about this? And then I could ask them to do that, and maybe later I'll speak to her, and then I'll do this, and then what if she says that to me, and how will I respond? And then, oh, maybe I'll just give up doing a meeting altogether. So you're going down the wire of all these imagined scenarios. So you've already gotten angry. You can feel it. You might feel even the slightest feeling of frustration or annoyance, but he's telling us it's hiding, a big rage.
Mm.
So he's telling us that we're going to have fear of being answered differently from how can I get my way. So we're going to say, oh, the Holy Spirit, so rather than thinking about that, just straight away, the minute we get upset, just say, all right, I'm upset, I've got to do this straight away. And then think about the day you want to have and say, I make no decisions, Holy Spirit, you help me with this. And so I'll just read on a little bit more here. I'll just read this again. For you have already gotten angry, and your fear of being answered in a different way from what your version of the question asks will gain momentum until you believe the day you want is one in which you get your answer to your question. You see, how can I get my way? How can I get this person to change? And I think my happy day, now this is important, what he's telling here is I think I'm going to have a happy day when I get my way. You see, that's my happy day. I think I get the answer to my question. That's another key point of this. So we have to give that up. And you will not get it, for it would destroy the day by robbing you of what you really want. So when you have an ego judgment and then you decide to question and then you come up with the answer, you're thinking that that's where your happiness lies. And he's telling us, no, that doesn't bring happiness. This can be very hard to realise when once you have decided by yourself the rules which promise you a happy day. So this is a really important point, that when we judge, when we say, I've been unfairly treated, I need to sort this situation out for myself, and then I come up with the answer. I believe that happiness is getting my answer, whereas we're going back to, we need to bring it back to, I have no judgment, I have no decision, I have no question. The question is, how do I get my way? But that's really buried in our minds. But we have to see, the minute we're trying to get an answer, we've decided, we've already asked the question, how can I get my way, which is the ego's way. So this can be very hard to realise when once you have decided by yourself the rules which promise you a happy day. But these decisions still can be undone by simple methods which you can accept. So we're going on to, I think this is the longer restorative here. If you are so unwilling to receive, you cannot even let your question go, you can begin to change your mind with this. So it tells us, at least I can decide I do not like what I feel now. So that's really important. I think this, for me, I use this a lot. I just knew that the minute I was feeling uncomfortable, irritable, angry, I knew I wasn't feeling happy. So I thought, I don't want to feel like this. So this is what he's saying. I don't want to feel that way. So let's decide, I don't like what I feel now. Then this much is obvious and it paves the way for the next easy step. So yes, if I've judged something, I'm annoyed, I think someone should change, I've got a big judgment, I've made my decision. I have to say, okay, what am I feeling? I'm feeling annoyance, I'm feeling frustration, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling whatever. I don't like how I feel. It's all I have to say. Notice how I feel. I don't want to feel like this. Having decided that you do not like the way you feel, what could be easier than to continue with, and so I hope I have been wrong. This works against the sense of opposition and reminds you that help is not being thrust upon you, but is something that you want and that you need because you do not like the way you feel. This tiny opening will be enough to let you go ahead with just a few more steps you need to let yourself be helped. So what he's saying in this situation is when we're stuck in being upset, we think that the answer that the Holy Spirit's going to bring us is not going to bring happiness. We think by getting our own answer that's going to bring us the happy day. And he's saying that it's hard to realise this, that because the ego says we need to get this to happen for us to be happy. So so when we practice this, it's just important so we don't want, in that particular instance, we're scared of the Holy Spirit's answer. We don't want another way, but if we're really practicing rules of decision and we're putting into practice it every morning, and we're saying, when we wake, we say, I make no decisions by myself, and we want a happy day. We've started off, that's part of the day, we've said, I want to be happy, I want to have a happy day where I'm joyful and I'm energetic, because tiredness is of the ego, and energy and love and being fulfilled and moving around and having life is the Holy Spirit, where you're full of life. You're full of, because the body's not sick, it's vital, it's full of the Holy Spirit and God, it's joy and happiness, so it's full of love and it's energetic. So getting back to where we are now, we are stuck, and we're fearful of the Holy Spirit's version. In this sense, he's telling us that we want our answer, because we believe the answer to our question is going to bring us happiness. So we have to say, I hope I have been wrong. So that just opens up, because the minute you say anything about you might be wrong in the way you think about something, you open up a tiny crack, and this is what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is opening up, I think I have been wrong, or I hope I have been wrong, or I think I have been wrong, or something about being wrong. Okay. So if you say, I hope I have been wrong, it works against the opposition and reminds you that help is not being thrust upon you. So, yes, we're moving along. We've opened up our mind to saying, you know, okay, I don't like the way I feel right now. I woke up this morning, I did the rules for decision, I visualised a happy day, I visualised myself going about, I visualised anything that I needed to do going really well, and here I am, I'm upset. So Jesus just says to me to notice what I've done. I must have decided by myself. So I say, okay, I give up those decisions, I give up those judgments. I hope I have been wrong. I don't like the way I feel. Now you have reached the turning point, because it has occurred to you that you will gain if what you have decided is not so. Until this point is reached, you will believe your happiness depends on being right. But this much reason have you now attained. You would be better off if you were wrong. So for me, on my journey, I just, when I started to realise, because this is not just in Rules for Decisions, it's all through the course's teachings, I just decided that I was wrong about everything. And therefore, I very quickly went to be able to ask for another way. So there was just a moment in my journey where I just said, look, I'm just going to say I'm wrong about everything, everyone and everything. And that was really like a really great thing to do. So he's telling us you'd be better off if you were wrong. So he's asking us to open up to I'm wrong. And it's okay to be wrong, because we're really part of mind training course with Jesus is that if we choose to be right, we're not going to be happy. He says we're either right or happy. So this brings in that teaching. So we have to reach a point where we're open to saying, well, look, I think I've been wrong about my judgment. So if I've judged the mechanic and I'm getting upset with him for being late, okay, I'm wrong. So Jesus tells me I'm better off if I was wrong. Okay, well, if he's telling me that, he's the teacher here, not me. I'm the one that's having a suffering time here. So I'm just going to rely on him, right? I think I'm going to get happiness if the mechanic's on time. I think that's going to make me happy. But actually my happiness relies on me not reacting to the mechanic, whether he's on time, early, late, or whatever, or doesn't turn up. Maybe he's something else and I need to go home and come back another day. So it means that happiness is when I don't judge any situations and I just move with the Holy Spirit. So this tiny grain of wisdom that I might be wrong will suffice to take you further. So you only need a crack in the mind, like that, you know, that sort of thing, that tiny crack of light gets in. You are not coerced, but merely hope to have the thing you want. Right, so this is the thing we want, is the happy day. So I'm not being coerced, I'm just being reminded, okay, if I'm wrong about this and I make no decisions by myself, I get the happy day. So it's like, well, I want to be happy, so this is what I want to do. And you can say in perfect honesty, I want another way to look at this. And this is the key. This is the key aspect of it. I want, and the want is bolded, I want another way to look at this. So when you're wrong, you're surrendering. That's the surrender. You're surrendering the way of being right. So that's a surrender, even though he doesn't call it. That's what we're doing. We're surrendering our way. So when I said at the beginning of the video that my version was to surrender the way I was seeing it, and then above all else, I want to see this differently. This is what's sort of happening now in this Rules for Decision. I want another way to look at this. It's this really strong desire. Now you have changed your mind about the day and have remembered what you really want. Its purpose has no longer been obscured by the insane belief you want it for the goal of being right when you are wrong. Thus is the readiness for asking brought to your awareness, for you cannot be in conflict when you ask for what you want and see that it is this for which you ask. So he's just really saying there that we're just really going through this process of giving up the way we've judged the situation, giving up what we think should happen with the mechanic or the person disturbing or seemingly disturbing or whatever's going on, what we've judged. Because even to say something's disturbing or someone's late, that's a judgment. There actually is no judgment. Bodies just move around. Bodies just come and go, and everything else is a meaning we've given it. So he says that we're asking, this gives us the readiness for asking for the truth to be brought into our awareness, and we move out of conflict. So we're shifting away from having conflict in our minds. This step is but an acknowledgement of lack of opposition to be helped. So in other words, we surrender. Okay, Holy Spirit, I want another way of looking at this. So there's lack of opposition to be helped, which is another way of saying surrendering to another way. It is a statement of an open mind, not certain yet, but willing to be shown. Then he goes on to say another two questions that we need to say. Perhaps there is another way to look at this. What can I lose by asking? Right, so there's two aspects here. It's I want another way to look at this, and perhaps there is another way to look at this. So there's this telling ourselves, I'm in conflict, I don't like the way I feel, okay, I want to be wrong, I want another way, and what can I lose by asking? Because I'm going to lose that feeling of being upset, aren't I? When I ask for another way, I'm going to lose the conflict and the anger and feeling attacked. Thus are you made ready for a question that makes sense, and so the answer will make sense as well. Nor will you fight against it, for you see that it is you who will be helped by it. So when we get that answer from the Holy Spirit, we see we're going to be helped. It must be clear that it is easier to have a happy day if you prevent unhappiness from entering at all. But this takes practice in the rules which will protect you from the ravages of fear. When this has been achieved, the sorry dream of judgment has forever been undone. So he's telling us that when he says the sorry dream of judgment has forever been undone, he means we're awakened to the real world. We've got an awakened mind. We've joined our mind back to God. So he's telling us that these rules, if we practice these rules, now this is what's going to be given us, the sorry dream of judgment, which is the ego's dream of judgment. So it's really important to understand these rules for decisions are very dynamic. They're not to be really dismissed lightly. These is Jesus giving us an exact way to peace of mind, to peace of God, to awaken to the love within, to awaken to the peaceful mind. And this is what he's giving us, and we have to, he's telling us how we're going to think. He's telling us that you might go into judgment, that you're going to want your way. He's saying, okay, when you get this, you're going to have this opposition, so just say to yourself, I hope I've been wrong. So if you can see it, rather than reading it as a big an area where it sounds really like an intellectual thing, really, I hope I'm bringing it to life and bringing it as something that's very practical. I hope it's been given like a something that you can use every day and make it very down to earth, I guess you could say, so that you can see. And as he says, it must be clear that it's easier to have a happy day if you prevent unhappiness from entering. So let's put the Holy Spirit in charge. I make no decisions today. Holy Spirit, you be in charge. and then I'm going to visualize this day. I'm going to see this beautiful day. I'm just going to see the happiness, the love. I'm just going to, yeah, just see everything happening with ease and grace, and visualize love and laughter and joy. I'll just read the end of this, but I also want to go back and just talk about one of the notes that is in here. I read this the other night. It was quite good. I think that's important. So when this has been achieved, the sorry dream of judgment has forever been undone. So it won't come back. It's been undone in your mind. But meanwhile, you have need for practicing the rules for its undoing. So the sorry dream of judgment's in our minds, and these are rules for undoing it. Let us then consider once again the very first of the decisions which are offered here. We said you can begin a happy day with the determination not to make decisions by yourself. This seems to be a free decision in itself, and yet you cannot make decisions by yourself. The only question really is with what you choose to make them. That is really all. The first rule then is not coercion, but a simple statement of a simple fact. You will not make decisions by yourself, whatever you decide, for they are made with idols or with God. And you ask help of Christ or Antichrist, and which you choose will join with you and tell you what to do. Your day is not at random. You see, when I was talking before about the script, it's not at random, because the ego's thoughts have already been chosen. You know, that's the whole dream's been chosen. So the ego, whatever the ego is going to bring in your mind today to judge, has already occurred. It's a dream of judgment. It's an ego's dream. So it's not at random. You've either got two choices, the ego or the Holy Spirit. You don't have your own thoughts. So every time you react, every time you judge, say I judge the mechanic, that I can't help but judge. I can't help but because I'm under the effect of the ego's thought system. You see, so that's, I'm going to have lifetime after lifetime of being caught up in this suffering without knowing I have my own power to decide differently. Your day is not at random. It is set by what you choose to live with, right? So my day, when I wake up in the morning, I think I get to have my will. I don't have a will. There's no Cate's will. There's no Penelope's will. It's the ego. I'm choosing with the ego all day long unless I'm choosing with the Holy Spirit. So we don't have our own will. We don't have our own thought system. We have a thought system that comes in. We don't know what our next thought's going to be. I don't know when the mechanic turns up late what thoughts I'm going to have about it, but the ego comes in and tells me about it. So my day's not at random, because when the mechanic turns up late, the ego will push some thoughts into my mind and say that's unfair. You need to say something. So how do I get my way? I want this guy to change. So my way is that he needs to change. And how do I get my way? I need to say something to him. I need to correct him. I need to get him to change. Or I will go somewhere else. And that'll show him he won't have my business. So this is all me making decisions on my own. So my day is not at random. There's nothing, I don't ever get to choose for myself. There's not one time that I have my own thoughts. I'm either in the ego or in the Holy Spirit. And this is what Jesus is clearly telling us. It is set by what you choose to live with and how the friend whose counsel you have sought perceives your happiness. Now, if I choose the ego, And he says, your happiness lies in getting the mechanic to do what you want. You always ask advice before you decide on anything. Oh, what should I do, ego? Oh, you need to tell him off. You need to tell him how he's wasting your time so he doesn't do this to other people. And then you're not coming back here. So he'll learn a lesson. Oh, he'll say, oh, that lady Cate never came back, so I must have upset her. So I won't do that. So what does that use? Guilt. I'm using guilt. I'm going to guilt him into it. You see, this is all based on the ego's idea of guilt. Let this be understood, and you can see there cannot be coercion here, nor grounds for opposition, that you may be free. There is no freedom from what must occur. So if what must, it's going to occur. If I'm believing the ego and I'm not asking the Holy Spirit at all, and I'm not doing the restorative, and I think my happiness lies in the mechanic changing his ways, I think that's my happiness. The ego says your happiness is getting your way. So Jesus is saying there is no freedom from what must occur, and if you think there is, you must be wrong. All right, so every time I'm thinking with the ego, I'm wrong. All right, so anytime I do that, anytime I judge for myself, I get angry or I get upset, and then I decide the answer. I decide my answer is how can I get my way? How can I get the situation to change? I'm wrong. The second rule as well is but a fact. For you and your advisor must agree on what you want before it can occur. Okay, so he says the ego always speaks first, but if that's why he asks us when we wake up in the morning to put this in motion. And by putting this in motion and thinking about the day you want to have throughout the day, whenever you have quiet time, you're bringing those feelings in, and it actually goes out and finds it. Because remember when he says the hungry dogs from the ego, the hungry dogs find the upset, finds the characters doing things wrong. In this way, he's saying that for you and your advisor must agree on what you want before it can occur. So he's also telling us that when we work with the Holy Spirit, when we decide I want a happy day and I make no decisions by myself, this is I'm agreeing with what I want before it occurs. So it works with both the ego and the Holy Spirit, getting in, having the happy day. But it is but this agreement which permits all things to happen. Nothing can be caused without some form of union, be it with a dream of judgment or the voice for God. Right? So nothing can be caused without some form of union. So everything that happens to me, I'm getting an experience. I get the experience from the ego or the Holy Spirit. It is but this agreement which permits all things to happen. Now this goes back to responsibility for sight, where it says I'm responsible for everything that happens to me. I'm responsible for who I choose. If I choose the ego, I'm going to get all those things that happen. I think the lateness happened to me. You see, the things that happen to me are the lateness, the rudeness. You see, I've put the meaning on it, and then I come away and I said lateness happened to me, rudeness, unfairly treated happened to me. That's how it's occurred. I judge it and then I say it happened to me. You see, I've put a meaning on it that it shouldn't have happened. I've judged it. I put the question, how can I get my way? But the thing that happens to me is what I've judged. It never happened to me. It's a meaning I've put on it. The mechanic comes 15 minutes late, and then I say that's not a very good way to run a business. So I've judged it, and then I've said, right, well, my time's very important. I'm judging my time. I've judged. I'm using the ego to judge all these things. And then I put it all together and the ego says, that's unfair and I'm unfairly treated. And it all underlying it all is there is a separate self to be unfairly treated. But that's why we have to dissolve all these things, and then it really gets down to the core that separate self is actually illusory, because they allude that when you judge, you're judging from that separate self. It's telling you there's a separate self to be unfairly treated. So once these don't happen, the idea of a separate self actually falls away. It has to. It has no thing. If there's no, the separate self is built on these ideas that it's here to be unfairly treated. So the thoughts go out and finds, okay, someone's 15 minutes late. And it finds that lateness is given a meaning, and then the separate self from its own perspective said that, I'm unfairly treated by that. And it creates this idea that there's a thing here to be unfairly treated unconsciously by that. And then how do I get my way? Well, it goes into a whole lot of things about what I should say, what I should do. As I said before, I should say something, I should leave, I should get that person to realise what they've done. And there's your whole big separation, all your anxiety, all your upsets, and also this idea that this happened to me. And if you understand responsibility for side, and it says, I have asked for everything that happens to me, I'm giving you a scenario. So I would come home from dropping my car at the mechanics, and then I would say to someone, guess what happened to me? Right? And nothing happened. All that happened was a body drove up in a car at 8:15 instead of 8 o'clock. Nothing happened to me. I've created this idea. The body did this and the body did that. My body did that and then my body went there. The bodies are just moving around. That's all that's really happening. Nothing's happening to me. So the minute I make up a story, I'll make up what's happened. And then it says that this is really important, and it really links in with responsibility for sight. Nothing can be caused without some form of union. So we have to be aware when we're joining with the ego. Be it a dream of judgment. So when I'm judging the mechanic, I'm in a dream of judgment, or the voice of God. Okay, I've put the Holy Spirit in charge in the morning, and I said, I'll make no decisions by myself. Decisions cause results because they are not made in isolation. They are made by you and your advisor. So we either get advised by the ego or the Holy Spirit. That's it. There's no other choice. They are made by you and your advisor for yourself and for the world as well. The day you want, you offer to the world, for it will be what you have asked for, and will reinforce the rule of your advisor through the world. Whose kingdom is the world for you today? What kind of day will you decide to have? Oh wow, I've been talking for a while. Now, has anyone got any questions or comments that they would like to make?
The deciding, in 16 where it says you never make a decision on your own, that really struck me, because that's meaning even when I don't realise, I've chosen the ego without realising it, but it's not me that's made the decision. Like it's not me that decided, it's just that I've chosen the ego. So that was that really struck me. And it's sort of like it's quite comforting to know that, because then, you know, okay, all right, so I made an error. I chose the ego and let the ego decide for me.
Yeah.
I can change that. Yeah. It
Yeah.
takes the harshness out of it too, about being harsh on yourself and
Yeah.
not being willing. You can be more willing for an answer then, because you can think, oh, okay, I chose the wrong thing to be in charge. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
interesting how he says in this section here that if we do these couple of things, these two procedures,
Yeah.
we won't have the ego in our mind. He says if we do this, we will counteract the ego. He says there will be times that you do it.
Yes. Yeah.
But he's telling us that this is a way to not have the ego speak first.
Yeah. Like it'll get less and less, isn't it?
Yeah, so he just says if these two procedures practice well, we won't have this. So this is why I think when I really understood these rules for decisions, I realised how important this was, that there is a way for us to start off our day and have a whole happy day, but we have to do the visualisation. We have to tell ourselves the day. We have to think about the day we want. And then we have to say, I make no decisions by myself. I make no decisions of what to do or how to respond. So I just say, Holy Spirit, you decide for me, you respond for me. You know, you can do your own little, you can put your own little prayers in using these words in your own way. I'm sure that's fine, because he really wants us to.
It doesn't matter, does it really? Because basically, whatever you call it, you're moaning God, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really the calling of your heart. I want a happy day. He says it's really like you really want to be willing to, and then he reminds you, now remember that you want a happy day, you've moved into the ego. So remind yourself, oh, okay, I really wanted the happy day. Remember that's the day you wanted, and go, okay, well, I hope I've been wrong. So he gives us these ways of, and you might have, 3 really happy days, and then day 4, you go back into some ego judgment, and then, maybe you need to read this section of the course if you, maybe every day for a month to really got the meat of it.
Yeah.
So I was just going to see if there was, I was thinking there was another little comment, and I was reading the other day, these little notes that Circle of Atonement put on. So I don't think I need to. Anyway, people that have this version of the Circle of Atonement version, there are some notes at the bottom of that you can read them as you go along. So, has anyone got any questions? Otherwise, we'll finish the recording.
I just have one comment.
Yeah.
What came up was an intense fear of forgetting the steps. So I just realised that I was writing really hard and getting pain, and I just recognised what I was doing. So I just stopped and went and laid down and just looked at the fear. That's all I wanted to say. So I'm finding this really helpful.
Yeah, the other thing is that it's in the course, so you don't need to remember anyway, Nikki.
I'm finding the examples that you're giving clarify it so much because I didn't understand it.
Yeah, so you can listen. This is a recording. It'll be up on YouTube. So if you want to listen to it again and sort of understand.
I can bookmark it. That's what I'm thinking of doing. Bookmarking it, and then I can replay it.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks, Nikki. Paul, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say about what we were talking about last time about seeing things differently, asking the Holy Spirit to see things differently. And he was talking, like with my life, with my situation, I just feel like I'm getting labelled mentally ill and having mental illness and stuff. How do I pray to that, like, to see that situation differently? Like, because I just feel from that being stuck in my life and not being able to.
What I've been guided to do is not to go beyond any labels of mental illness, because it's very important to never to label yourself ever. Just to say, all you need to say is, if I'm upset, I'm choosing the ego. So I think, and some people do work with, there is part of our journey can be where we work with a counsellor, doctor, where we do take patient. And, you know, when you go in there, they're going to say, oh, you've got a depressive depression, or you've got anxiety, or you've got this, or you're hearing voices, or, you know, and the ego's world has lots of different analogies of the ego. I think it's really important as a course student to reframe that, just to really come to say, I'm going beyond all the labels, but when I go to my doctor, I'm going to use those labels because that's how they talk. But once I walk out of the doctor's, I'm just going to say that it's the ego, and it's a thought system of fear, and everyone has it, and Jesus has the answer. And here we've gone through the rules for decision. And so I don't actually have to figure my way out, because Jesus is just like this whole rules for decision that we've gone through today is a way of awakening to peace. So you don't have to do anything, Paul, in terms of, Jesus asks us not to do anything except because we do have some power. All we have to do is choose the Holy Spirit. So in this version, he says, today I make no decisions by myself, and then today I visualise the day I want. And they're the two things he asks us to do.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, and that's all I did for a number of years. I didn't actually do the visualizations because I hadn't read this, but I really wish I had it. I wish I had. It would have been quicker, because he says by how you practice this. But anyway,
it's like From the Secret talks about visualization.
Yeah, but
The Secret.
See, the only difference with The Secret is that I'm not saying you would, but if you were to do The Secret from the ego, you would think that you needed something and you would visualize it and you might get it. But really in the course is, what would you want it for? So
yeah, it's different.
Yeah, because
I've seen the DVD, The Secret, that it stops you from accepting things as they are.
Yes.
Like even, for instance, it talks about something as simple as getting a parking spot.
Yeah.
You know, whereas since doing this right from when I went to meditation with Shane, I've realised, is what it is there's not a parking spot, I just park a bit further away. Like, rather than thinking, get a parking spot. So it's not, things as it is. Whereas
there is a difference between The Secret and doing this. This visualization, you're visualizing. Actually, that's what I wanted to read. Actually, Paul, it was about maybe it's not about when you visualize the day you want and the things you want to happen to you. It's not about the ego's day. It's not about getting the things you want to have. when it says here, but think about the kind of day you want. Tell yourself there is a way in which this very day can happen just like that. Clearly, you are not meant to dream up your ego's fantasy day. That would be to fall into error of writing a script that reflects your plan for the day you should be. Yeah, this is in the... So it's not about, oh, I want to have a Ferrari, my happiness lies in that.
Yeah.
You know, or a huge house or something. It's really about the happiness of things, people blessing you, an easy day, a quiet day full of love and joy. So there's nothing wrong with visualising people being happy, you know, you smiling, seeing happy faces, that sort of thing. So it says here, so that would be to fall into error of writing a script that reflects your plans for what the day should be. And indeed, the error of believing that the day you want is one in which you get your answer to your question. Rather, since this whole section is about employing specific methods for achieving the goal of the course, right? The goal is clear, but now you need specific methods of attaining it. You are meant to choose a day that reflects that goal, which is peace. So you want peace, so you visualise peace.
Yeah.
That reflects, as a section that later says, what you really want. So you don't really want a Ferrari. You think you want the Ferrari so you can be happy, but all you need to do is visualise you happy and peaceful. And then it doesn't matter what you've got, you're happy and peaceful. So it's sort of, so that's the difference between those things like The Secret and this.
Yeah, because I realised that there's a big difference through the Course in Miracles, because I came out from a weekend of, I don't know if you've heard of the Coaching Institute. It's in...
The what, sorry?
The Coaching Institute.
No, I haven't.
It's a coaching school. You learn how to coach people and become successful coaches. So I did that, and I realised there's a difference. They like people when they become more successful in the coaching and stuff. You can make a big income eventually, and they spend their money on like cars like that and stuff. But the Course in Miracles, like David Hoffmeister and stuff, they're completely different. They're more at peace with themselves, I think, and happiness in the moment, sort of thing.
That's
like
it.
The number one.
So when you visualise yourself happy day, you're having the happiness right then, and then as you go through the day, the happiness stays because the Holy Spirit responds to every situation, and He gives you the things of what to do. So your day is happy. It's all filled with happiness and joy and peace because it's your mind. So you're joining the Holy Spirit, the ego.
Yeah.
So I might just stop the recording now. We'll continue on. We're going to have some lunch here now and then continue on the afternoon for probably another hour or so. So hang around, everyone, and thanks everyone for being part of this recording, and thanks for everyone who commented or shared or asked a question. Thanks, Paul, for joining. It's your first time joining in. So
thanks. Yeah.
And I'll just say a blessing to everyone. I love you. I bless you and I honour you, and thank you for being here. And as I see you, I see myself. So I'm having a peaceful, happy day because I'm seeing everyone as the Christ. Thank you, and I love you. And I'm going to stop this recording now. And love you.